When I first started making music, I had no idea where to start. There was so much information out in the abyss, I had no idea what to learn. Now, 8 years later, audio engineering graduate, I can now use all my knowledge to teach you what to learn so that you can start making music in the most efficient way possible. So this is all you need to know about starting to make music. And by the way, links for every product I mentioned will be in the description. This video is going to be loaded with information, so bear with me. 1. What's your instrument? Because you should have one. Learning an instrument is extremely important, whether it's a cello, a piano, a trumpet, drums, or your voice. Not only will it make it easier to actually record the instrument if you know how to play it, you'll actually understand music a lot more. Because learning an instrument is a step towards making music, you'll understand not just theory. And by the way, even if you don't want to learn music theory, you are learning music theory because you're learning an instrument. Learning an instrument lets you know what creative ideas to use, what you should and shouldn't do. You can't sing in a different key you're playing in. You know what works with what. Everything about learning music is built off of knowing how to play music. So if you don't know how to play music, maybe learn that first. Otherwise, you won't be able to make anything that's listenable in the first place. Next, equipment. First thing you need is a computer. Get a computer with enough processing power to run your audio software. And I mean, sometimes they're pretty big, so don't cheap out on your processor. Plus, everything you're doing is going to be on this computer, so don't cheap out. I seriously recommend getting a MacBook. It's just the easiest thing you can do. There was like 4 or 5 options of a MacBook. All of them work, especially all the silicone ones. Every new MacBook will last you pretty long, and it'll let you do whatever you want to do. But if you swear by Windows, just get something with a powerful Ryzen processor or a powerful Intel processor. Not super powerful. You don't need to build like this massive gaming build in order to run Ableton, but it won't hurt to get good stuff. Also, get more than 8 gigabytes of RAM, I promise. And if you're serious about making music, future-proof your stuff. Get a good computer. Headphones. Headphones aren't super important. The only important thing about headphones is knowing the headphones. So if you know exactly what your headphones are doing to your sound, then you're fine. You'll know what your song or your mix sounds like for anyone that's not using your headphones. I mean, yeah, invest in some good headphones. I wouldn't mix on AirPods. I wouldn't mix on anything Bluetooth, but you don't have to spend thousands of dollars. You can buy some biodynamic DT770s, which is what I've got. You can buy some ATH M50Xs. You can get some Sennheiser HT280 Pros. All these headphones are great headphones. Try and get some that don't color the sound too much. You can check this by using the frequency response. You can search up frequency response of whatever headphone you're looking at, and they will have a frequency response if they're good headphones. So when you get your headphones, just listen to music through them. Listen through your car, listen through AirPods, listen to a bunch of headphones. Sooner or later, you'll know what your headphones are doing. I know mine have a little more high end than normal. So if something's a little bit too sharp in my mix, then odds are it sounds good in everything else. Interfaces. You need an interface to record. An interface is what converts the voltage from this microphone into an actual sound that you recognize. So technically, you're just listening to a bunch of voltage fluctuations, but that's a little bit too scientific. So a couple things to think about when you're getting an interface. Number 1, how many inputs do you want? You want 2. You don't want 1, you want 2. Eventually, you're going to want to do stereo recording, so get an interface with at least 2 inputs on it. And even better if there are those hybrid jacks where you can do XLR and quarter inch. Those are great. Most interfaces have them. Also, think about preamps. Usually the new interfaces are quite good with preamps anyway, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. I'm using a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 2nd gen, and the preamps are kind of limiting because they're a little bit noisy, but I deal with it. You can get stuff like the Scarlett 2i2. I wouldn't get the Solo because it's only 1 input, 1 XLR, 1 quarter inch. The UA Volt series, the Native Instruments Control 2, and your interface should have phantom power as well. That's that little button that says 48 volts on it. Most interfaces have them. I'm pretty sure all interfaces have them now. Next, MIDI controllers. If you want to use synths and virtual instruments, then you can invest in a MIDI controller. This can be as cheap as an Akai MPK Mini. I prefer to have a separate drum pad. I have the Akai MPD 218 right here and an M Audio Keystation 61 because this MIDI controller right here has 16 drum pads on it, and that one has 61 keys, apparently. It's called a Keystation 61, so I would imagine. It's really nice to not be limited by like 4 drum pads or like 24 keys. Piano players have a ton of keys available. You don't want to just have 25. These things are pretty cheap, only a couple $100s, probably less than a couple $100 actually. So get one. You're going to be very grateful that you got one. It's much easier to perform and record virtual instruments when you have MIDI controllers. Next, microphones. There's 3 types of mics you're going to be around, mostly 2. Number 1 is the dynamic microphone. It doesn't require power. You can just plug it in and it works. It's less sensitive, so you'll have to boost your preamps more, and if your preamps are noisy, then you're going to have noise in your recordings. So that's why you want to have preamps in mind. But a good way to battle this is to just get what's called an inline microphone preamp, which is like a cloud lifter, a FET head, and SC Dynamite. It's just an extra preamp before your preamp. And it boosts the gain of your microphone, so you don't have to boost it as much on your interface. These are some popular dynamic microphones. Next are condenser microphones. They're typically much more detailed. They have more high end, which means they are brighter sounding, a lot more clarity, a lot more detail, a lot more sensitive, but they require phantom power or 48 volt power. That's that button on that interface again. You need that to record your condenser microphone. So because it has that 48 volt phantom power, it's much more sensitive. You don't have to turn it up as much. That's kind of like the whole thing. And ribbon microphones, they're very delicate. So delicate that you can actually burst them if you're recording something very loud. Like if you put a ribbon microphone in front of a kick drum and you hit the kick drum really hard, your ribbon microphone is gone. Also, if you put phantom power through a ribbon microphone, your microphone is gone. There is types of ribbon microphones that do require phantom power, but like I said, you're probably not running into many ribbon microphones as you're starting out, so don't worry about it. Point is, they're much more sensitive. They're much more smooth than a condenser microphone, and they're cool. They're cool on strings. Just a little tidbit of info. Okay, so you got your interface, you got all your stuff set up. How does it work? Well, your interface is connected to your computer via USB, and your microphone is connected to your interface via XLR. So your microphone is moved by the sound pressure, creates a voltage. Voltage is sent to the interface. Interface creates it into sound, and your computer records it. Next, what DAW are you using? I don't care what DAW you use. No one cares what DAW you use. They all do the same thing. However, whatever one you do use, learn it, learn the workflow, and learn the shortcuts. If you don't learn the shortcuts, you're lazy. Learning shortcuts will make the workflow much, much faster, much more efficient. You'll be a god at your DAW. Anyway, here's some slightly biased opinions on DAWs. Ableton is fast, easy to learn, extremely expensive, and great for making music. Logic is fast, easy-ish to learn, great price, and great for making music, as well as working on films. FL Studio is fast if you learn the weird-ass workflow, and it's good for making music, especially electronic music. It's cheaper, it has good plugins, and I hate it. Reaper is basically free, it's great, it's ugly, has good plugins. It's a great option, and most live shows are run on Reaper. Pro Tools is amazing. It's extremely slow. It's not very intuitive. It's extremely expensive. $40 a month, are you kidding me? It's the industry standard because it's extremely powerful. It's a bit slow. It has a ton of tools, some tools that some DAWs might not have. If it's the first DAW you learn, you're probably going to want to jump off a bridge. You'll hate making music. It's amazing for mixing. It's amazing for recording. It's less amazing for producing, and it's amazing for film. There's other DAWs like Studio One, Cubase. I don't know anything about them. Cubase looks kind of cool though. Next, how to listen. This is the most important part of everything. Listen to music and actively listen to music. Listen to how the vocal sounds, listen to where the instruments are, listen to the space, listen to the dynamics, listen to absolutely everything and just pay attention to it. Analyze music. Like you're going to be doing this anyway because you're going to start to make music and you're going to start, over-analyzing every single song and focusing more on the mix than the actual music. It's a curse. It's really a curse. But the sooner you do this, the better you'll get. Your bad mixes will start to be influenced by good mixes, and then your bad mixes will be better mixes. And then good mixes. Next, how to record. Recording is a mixing decision. Moving a microphone will change the sound. Therefore, you're making choices based on a sound, which means you're mixing. So listen for what you want and then record it. Don't record something garbage and then try and fix it later. You're going to be very pissed at yourself if you do that. And your mixes will be horrible. I mean, they're going to be horrible at first anyway. This is the first day of my life. But at least you'll be helping yourself out. If you record stuff well, you'll be a lot easier on yourself. Also, it's hard to get a good sounding recording in a bad sounding room. So, even just having carpet on your floor is really nice. Basically, you're going to want as much absorbent material as possible. Couches, beds, blankets, but not those like shitty 2-inch Amazon foams. Those don't work. I don't know why people think they do. They don't. They don't work. Don't buy them. It's a waste of money. Okay, now recording instruments like acoustic guitar. There's a couple different ways, standard ways to record acoustic guitar. You can record it any way you want, but these are the standard ways. One mic at the 12th fret, about 6 inches away, and then there's stereo ways like XY, ORTF, space pair, Blumline, whatever. Basically, do whatever you want as long as it sounds good. And maybe don't point the mic directly at the sound hole because that will never sound good. Recording vocals. You'll probably want to use a condenser for this, but you can use a dynamic. You can use a ribbon. It doesn't really matter. The only reason I say condenser is because it's more detailed. And the vocal's a big part of the mix. The most important part of recording vocals is the vocal performance. You can always fix tuning as long as you're not a horrible singer, but you can never fix emotion. So what people do is they'll record a bunch of takes and then they'll choose the best parts of each take and then create a final amazing take. That's called comping. That just ensures the final take is the best take possible. You can record your amps, but I don't. My room doesn't sound that great, and I don't really care to. I'll just use an amp sim. Download Amplitude 5, download THU, download any Neural DSP plugin, and your guitar will sound much better than it would if you just recorded it through your own amp. As for recording like piano, synths, keys, just get a plugin. There's a ton of them available. I recommend all of these. And as for drums, you don't have a drum kit. Or if you do, you don't have enough drum mics. Or if you do, you don't have enough inputs. Or if you do, your room sounds horrible. Basically, it's hard to record drums and make them sound good. Get Superior Drummer, get Addictive Drums, get Easy Drummer. You'll thank yourself later. Phase. This is a little scientific, but phase cancellation is when two very similar signals collide with each other and just kind of like ruin the sound of something. It's too scientific right now. You just want to learn how to record stuff. So this is what it does. Look, you see? Kind of interesting, huh? You won't really understand this unless you search it up. So I recommend learning about it. It is quite important. Editing your takes. Editing your takes, whether that be like quantizing MIDI. Quantizing means like timing, choosing the best takes for your vocals, or getting rid of breaths and clicks and noise and mouth clicks is a very, very important step because you can't polish garbage. So clean up the garbage first and then you'll have something good you can mix. Make sure your cuts, by the way, are crossfaded. I can't stand when people send stuff that isn't crossfaded because you get clicks and annoying artifacts and I hate it. Next, mixing. the whole most like important part of like making music. You have to understand the processors. You have to. These are the processors explained in like a very simple way. Compression lowers the loud parts of your recording, so you can then turn it up, and it lowers the dynamics and it makes it feel more even. You can adjust how fast the compressor starts, what level at which the compressor starts, how long it takes for the compressor to stop, and how much it should compress, and a couple more parameters. Reverb. Reverb is space. It is a bunch of reflections and echoes and delays, all very dense. There's a bunch of different types. There's some that are made out of big silver metal plates. There's some that are mimicked out of real rooms. There's some that are made out of springs. And there's some that are very purely digital sounding. Learn about them. Saturation. Saturation is very important. It's very kind of, I don't know, I think it's complex and complicated to learn. Saturation is like mild distortion. It brings up harmonics. It sweetens the sound. It can make something sound harsh. It can make something sound smooth and warm. It can destroy the sound. It's complicated. Modulation is stuff like chorus and delay and others like creative and wacky effects. Here's some terms to look into. Flangers, phasers, chorus, ensemble, Haas effect, stuff like that. Mixing is making stuff sound good. So in order to do that, you have to know it sounds good, which means you have to listen. So go back to listening, active listening, very important. And lastly, just some last pieces of advice. Only purchase your next plugin after fully understanding your previous plugin. Pirating a ton of plugins just gives you paralysis of choice. Not only should you be supporting companies, you should also be supporting yourself. You're not supporting yourself if you just download 14 gajillion plugins and not know what the hell each does. Enjoy the process. If you want to actually learn about all the stuff I brushed over in this video, you can check out my course. Shameless plug. We go over mixing and recording and all those processors I brushed over. We actually go in depth into them. Sometimes they're hard and complicated to learn, so I break it down pretty easily. And lastly, listen. And that's how to get started making music. Pretty much, I think I covered pretty much everything. I mean, everything you need to know to get started. Obviously, you're gonna forever learn. So what I recommend is looking into everything I talked about. Everything you don't know about, learn about. Sooner or later, you'll be really good at what you do. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'm extremely hungry, so I'm gonna go eat now.